Hello, No Cap fans. This is Jeff Mayhew here from No Cap Fund. What you're about to listen to or watch is our second live stream with my good friend Stephen Kent. We had a great conversation talking about uncapping the House and local politics. I hope you enjoy. We're live now. Welcome out there, No Cap Fund friends. I am here with our president, Walter, and our treasurer, Roger. We have a special guest today, Stephen Kent. Stephen Kent is author of How the Force Can Fix the World. He's also run for local office. He has a great Substack called Geeky Stoics, where he writes about Stoicism and pop culture and finding balance in this very topsy-turvy world. Stephen, thanks for joining us tonight.
Nice to be with you, Jeff, Roger, Walter. Nice to meet you too.
Likewise.
Good evening.
So as we typically start our spaces out, we have a reading of our Declaration of Representation. Walter's going to go ahead and read that for us tonight.
All right.
When, in the course of human events, power centralizes and the people struggle to hold their government accountable, we are compelled to reflect. We must ask, what kind of nation do we wish to be? Do we want to be a free and independent people where out of many we become one? Do we want to be united in purpose to govern ourselves, sharing authority and responsibility? Or do we want to become another drifting republic where power escapes the reach of the people and slides towards tyranny or anarchy? We hold these truths to be self-evident. That people were created free, that a republican form of government derives its powers from the consent of the governed, and that consent is given through representation accountable to the people. Since 1929, the people's power in the House of Representatives has remained capped at 435 seats, despite the American population having tripled. This artificial and arbitrary limitation concentrates power, distorts democracy, and undermines the relationship between citizen and representative. The 435-member cap violates the very purpose for which representative government was established, to be accountable to the people. Therefore, we unite to, first, support reform. We must increase the size of the U.S. House of Representatives to remain a free people. Second, champion honest debate. We welcome rigorous discussion on the methods of expansion. Third, push for a vote. We demand that Congress hold hearings and openly debate legislation to uncap and modernize the House. And fourth, expand the tent. We must engage Americans of all political stripes in this cause. In support of these commitments, we promise one another our good faith effort, honest voice, and steadfast commitment to peaceably repair representation to the people and balance under our great Constitution.
Thank you, Walter. As we approach the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, we remember that it was a declaration for representation, wasn't it, Walter?
That's right. And we should all remember the founding battle cry, no taxation without representation. I've accomplished 2 chapters in this book, and she actually quotes that as kind of her founding thesis. So as the reason why that word is so important. So
mine gets delivered
more
tomorrow.
To come. Oh, exciting.
All right, Stephen. So thank you for joining our ragtag team here. You and I, we live near each other. We have lots of great conversations. I want to bring you in here with Roger and Walter and talk about what do you perceive your representation as a Virginia man, right? What do you want your representative to be? And do you feel like you should have a relationship with that person? Oh, I think.
Fixed it. Sorry.
Right.
No, I think the obvious answer is yes. I don't know who wouldn't want a relationship, FaceTime, familiarity with their congressperson who works their district. I don't know who wouldn't want that. I am really compelled by your declaration of principles that Walter just laid out there, just the the idea that what we are supposed to be as Americans is represented by someone who goes to Washington and speaks on our behalf and keeps us in mind. And my gosh, there's not enough of them, actually. I know people cringe at the idea of the swamp. They sort of lash against the idea that you might want more people in Washington, D.C., this place that they perceive to be the hive of scum and villainy, and then you suggest that there might need to be more of them, and they go, "What? That's antithetical to everything I believe in." I go, "No, actually, I think it's not. I think it's not. You don't have a voice in that building, and that's another truth that people recognize. They go, "I don't like DC, but I also don't have a voice." And I appreciate that you three have come together to try and give that to people. I'm sidestepping Jeff's original question just a little bit. I just want to say I'm inspired by what y'all have done and what you are continuing to do. I am a convert. I have a little bit of the zeal of a convert as far as your issue goes. It took a lot of beers and time hanging out for Jeff to persuade me that this was a problem. And now I am certain this is a huge, huge threat to our future. So good on all of y'all. And again, thank you for having me on here. Yeah, I mean, just here in Virginia, I think that people, there's a divide here between the folks who grew up in rural Northern Virginia when it used to be farmland and trees and, again, just farms. And now people who have experienced the expanding of the federal bureaucracy out beyond Fairfax and into Manassas and pushing people all out into this town called Front Royal, like an entire hour away from DC. The web is growing. And then the people who live in Northern Virginia, in this place that I call home now, they are government workers, they're government employees, they're the people who are doged or trying not to get doged. And it's just strange, you go like, wait, they work for the government. Who is representing us if you don't work for the octopus of federal agencies and you live up here? We've got a congressman, Jeff, you've had, a bunch of conversations with him. Suhas Subramani, is that how you say his name? Suhas. I'm going to call him Congressman Suhas.
Yeah, I have actually not spoken to him.
Yeah, Congressman Suhas here from Northern Virginia. And it just often seems that the only time I've ever heard from him was during the Doge thing, when federal layoffs were being driven by Elon Musk, and there was going to be a huge slashing of all these different federal workers. And then he just came out of the woodwork and being loud and screaming and holding protests in DC. It's like, that's what it takes for you to get out and and be seen. Yeah.
Well, so two things with that is I went to his office to speak with him during that period of time, and I was told that they couldn't talk about anything else because he was so focused on the federal workers. And then I pointed out that only 30,000 of his 756,000 people in the district were federal workers that were going to be potentially affected by this, and they didn't care. Two, I think he just came into office. So that was the first thing that he did when he got into office. But you're right, he's kind of disappeared since then.
Yeah, I haven't seen or heard from him ever since. I've also never seen him in person. I mean, granted, you can't hold this against politicians and congressmen to a certain extent. You go, I've never seen them at the Starbucks or the downtown area. And you go, well, that's kind of the problem that you are all seeking to solve, is they represent so many people in such a large area, ridiculously populated. Of course, you're never going to see them, but you still kind of hold it against them.
Well, so that brings me to what I wanted to ask you about. In concept, you have run for local office, and you had a spouse runs for local office, and you've had a lot of time speaking with people, trying to represent them, trying to understand what they actually want. Obviously, they were for different positions, but what do regular people want out there? We're told by the media, right, all the time what people want. But when you're on the ground talking with so many different voters in this area, what are they actually talking about?
Well, in our area, the thing on the tip of most people's tongues is data centers and their concern about the growth of data centers in Northern Virginia. Now, I want to try to I want to try to say something insightful or smart about that. Like, what does that really mean? Every area has different concerns. Northern Virginia's main driving concern right now is this feeling of not having enough space, this feeling of the population here is growing, the housing is incredibly expensive. You could never just like go out and buy a couple of acres around here anymore unless you were some kind of incredibly wealthy, government worker making $200,000 a year. Um, it just wouldn't be feasible. And then data centers start to appear, and they're massive. They're huge. They block out the sun in some areas. They level entire forest areas. Sometimes buildings are being knocked down that had a previous use, and these things are being put in their place. They're loud. They hum. People have complained about how it makes them feel. It's just like a quality of life issue. It's a space issue. And I think people around here feel as though there was never really a debate. There was never really a decision about whether data centers were going to be the future of Northern Virginia. And so, with all of these buildings going up, buildings that people like Tucker Carlson have suggested need to be bombed, which is an alarming thing for a media personality to suggest. I just get the sense that there's no trade-offs that happen anymore in our politics. People are not being given something for something. If you're going to be the data center hub of the country or the world, which this area might be, what do you get in return for it? It's like with Alaska. I think they have the oil dividends. They sort of have this universal income, universal basic income, oil dividend. It's just like $1,500 or something every year. It's like a tax return, but it's based off the natural resources of living in that area, being an Alaskan, toughing it out in that part of the country, that part of the world. It's sort of your reward. After you've been there for so many years, you can qualify for this. And something that I suggested when I was going around town and knocking on doors and talking to people, even in Manassas City where I live, where there have not been that many data centers, there's only been like 2 that have gone up so far. People still are concerned about it. They think they're coming for them. And I would always just suggest, maybe we need to get something in return for these things. Lower taxes, no utilities, huge investments in the schools that you can see, touch, feel, money back in your pocket, some thing that you benefit from for this supposed natural resource that only Northern Virginia can provide for people. There was never a trade-off. It was just, you're going to have data centers and you're going to like it. And don't you feel lucky to have all these things blocking out the sun every couple of blocks in your zip code? That's basically what's happened. I know, Jeff, you live in the county. You've seen this more viscerally than I have, since you're in the county and not the city limits like I am. But maybe that's what I feel. It's just, I feel like people are frustrated because they're never getting anything for their investments, their tax dollars, being an American, being a Northern Virginian, the richest place in the world, the richest zip code in the world if you're around Fairfax. What do you get for it when they want to block out the sun with data centers?
Well, I think that story, that local story that you tell, is very kind of pivotal and similar to the national story. We don't feel like we get anything, like we don't feel like we have a say in it. Things just happen, the debt keeps going up, but we don't have a say in the bills that are getting passed and changing the potential future.
Well, is it that we don't get a say or we choose not to? There's a statistic Walter and I have talked about a couple times. Nobody in America grades their representative in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
The approval rate of Congress is abysmal, the 20s, the teens, the whatever. And yet, representatives are reelected 95% of the time. Let me say 95% of the winners of a congressional election will be the incumbent. There's a disconnect there. People
Yeah.
have an opportunity, they don't take it.
Well, I mean, you know how I feel about that. That's because of the system. It's hard to get an incumbent out
Yes.
when you have a closed, small system that requires
Yes.
massive amounts of money to win office, and you're party backed, right? Because if you're the incumbent and you have an incumbency, like an advantage for being in that party in that district, then the party's not going to kick you out. So that seat's yours. And doesn't matter even if you're upside down and people don't like you in your district. They're not going to cross. There, not enough of them are going to cross enough. Oh, we lost Steven here. What
But
happened?
he dropped a couple times, so he's having a connection issue. He'll be back.
It's those data centers are failing.
I know, right? Like I thought the data centers were supposed to make this work so perfectly.
Yeah, we were having
You
brownouts
literally
this
get
morning.
getting nothing back. No, it's so interesting. A lot of things about this conversation already. I want to dive in with Stephen about, but Roger, to Roger's point, there's another disconnect, which is, in general, we disapprove of Congress, right? The congressional approval rating is like in barely above
Terrible.
20%.
Yeah.
But in general, we tend to like our own representative more than that, right? Like the approval rating of individual representatives by their districts tends to be somewhat higher. One of the reasons for this is because the two-party system, the two parties and the party primary system with the capped house has driven all of these seats to be safe, right? Almost every
Yes.
single seat in the House of Representatives is a safe seat. And so as a result, all you
Yes.
have to do is win the primary. And so to win the primary, what does that mean? Well, it means you're either going further left if you're trying to win a Democratic primary, or you're going further right to try to win a Republican primary. And so, it's a Hollywood type environment where you're just trying to win the most extreme positions. You just position yourself as the most extreme candidate, and then you're most likely to win that primary. And so you end up with a bunch of people who are they've been like pushed further right or further left liking these candidates. And so they like what their candidate stands for. Like I'm thinking of like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, right? Like her constituents actually kind of like her. But in general, they think
They reelected
Congress
her,
sucks.
so they must.
Yeah, right. Or you can think of like an AOC, right? They're kind of emblematic of the primary pushing people to the extremes, while continuing to elect them. And then we get a Congress that's just totally dysfunctional because everyone's just staking out these extreme positions, and they have no incentive to like actually work across the party lines. Jeff, it looks like you're talking to Steven in the background. Is he?
Yeah, there's something wrong with the connection. It's not letting him connect for some reason. It kicked him out. I don't.
The AI overlords are pissed.
I feel like
That's what you get for dissing data centers. You just keep it up. Keep it up. There's gonna be blood above your door on Passover. It's gonna be bad.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know. I feel like every time we try to like do anything with new technology, it always doesn't work the first couple times. But Walter and I tested it out twice.
I know we did. And we've got some comments streaming in the
5
chat.
minutes ago.
Yeah, it was. He needs to keep trying. You should tell him to close out his browser and like restart and just try to rejoin because it's working on our end. Maybe a new browser. But Craig T. Stewart has provided a couple comments in the chat. He says Manassas Battlefield is getting data centers near it too. That's also in Virginia. And he says too close to historical places. Prince William and Loudoun say it pays for education. Interesting.
But
too
it doesn't.
too close, but it doesn't. Okay.
I mean, there's debate.
Oh, and he says, don't cross the all-seeing eyes. Yeah, so this was going to be my question for Steven, which I'll re-ask when he joins. But, obviously, there are robots in Star Wars. And so he's written a book about the Force saving us. And but AI, like as a concept, I think is like less prominent in the Star Wars franchise. And I've been thinking more and more about, and especially as I dive through this book, the concept of representation is the idea of having AI representatives, right? And this plays. There's so many ways AI play into the concept of representation. One is the way in which it kind of it increases the demand that we have representatives that we can trust to help us filter through all the AI generated content. But then on the other hand, you think about like one of the ways they're going to do that is our representatives are going to be relying on AI. And so you're going to have AI checking AI, and AI is going to be representing to us or representing us in certain ideas or fields. And I wonder if he has any thoughts on that. So we'll see if we can bring it back.
I have, but I posted this in our chat. I was having some issues with Squarespace and exporting the data that we collect from the forms that we have on our website. And it says, "What do you want? What do you need help with?" So I type in my question. Hey, Steven, you're back.
I was besmirching the data centers, and so I believe my device was attacked. So
Yeah. Yes, you've been spotted.
I believe it.
Yeah.
So Walter was just talking about how he believes that at some point AI is going to represent us, and that's why we need to uncap the house. I believe that's the gist of what he was saying, because it's pretty much what he says all the time. And I was pointing out that I was having an issue with Squarespace this week, and I went to their chat, their AI chat, and to be fair, the AI chat wasn't actually up because it was down. It was a weekend or whatever, but I didn't know that yet. It said, "What do you need help with?" I said, "The form on my website collects phone numbers, but when I export the contact list, it doesn't include the numbers with the emails. How do I change that?" The response was, "We don't offer phone support because we truly believe it wouldn't be possible to provide the same effective assistance over the phone. You can contact our customer service team via email or live chat." And all I can think is, you're not listening to me.
A little bit. You mentioned being represented by AI. I wish I could remember the university, but I was just at an AI expo in Washington, D.C. It was in partnership with the Pentagon, so it was really centered around AI governance and defense capabilities, how AI was going to revolutionize warfare and all sorts of different things. But one of the booths was a university. I can't remember which one it was, but they were promoting a suite of research tools that they had developed for AI-powered governance decisions. And I'm not talking about governance of AI, talking about using AI to make governance decisions, informed decisions, the correct decisions. Exactly, I think what everybody is afraid of, that they're going to run decisions that Congress should be making and that bureaucrats might make through AI to make decisions based on the algorithm that it operates off of. It was actually really scary. I tried talking to the lady behind the booth for a little bit, and I was just like, so how do you decide what is a right decision? What is an ethic, like where do ethics play into this? Where does political polarization factor into like your AI and how it might think about environmental impact trade-offs with some kind of regulation and how it might impact business? The answer was exactly what you'd expect. It was just sort of a left-leaning project to outsource decision making to AI. But anyways, we were talking about representation before I disappeared.
Yeah, well, I've got to show y'all something that was just sent to me. This is on Wyoming Public Media, and it says, "Wyoming man seeks to make artificial intelligence the mayor of Cheyenne," which is the capital of Wyoming. So the Cheyenne electorate may be the first in the nation to vote for artificial intelligence in the city's mayoral election this November. Cheyenne resident Victor Miller filed candidacy paperwork to run for mayor under the name Vic. It's a position Miller said he would let his chatbot AI run independently of his feelings or wishes. So It's happening in real time.
Yeah. Things are going really well for representing ourselves.
You know that what you were just saying there about that lady and like who do you decide? You know what it reminds me of, Stephen? It reminds me of your Freedom Fest talk from a few years ago when you talked about Anakin and what's her name?
Are you
I'm
talking
sorry.
about Padme, his
Yeah, Padme.
star-crossed lover?
Yeah, his star. I struggle with names sometimes, so forgive me.
Queen Amidala, Senator of Naboo?
Yes, her. Natalie Portman. I remember Natalie Portman's name.
Yeah. But what about her?
It sounded the same. It's like it doesn't matter where you go or what happens in society or what world, if it's real or if it's fake, we're always asking the same question, which is who decides? And
Oh,
the
right.
answer in America is the people decide through representation. That's how it works. And yet have people trying to run artificial intelligence as mayors, like we keep losing ourselves.
Yeah, you're talking about in Star Wars Episode 2 when Padme and Anakin are on a date on Naboo and they are hanging out and they're talking politics and Anakin hates politics. And so he's prodding Padme because she's a senator in the Galactic Republic. And he says, I just think everybody should get together in a room, discuss the issues, decide what's in the best interest of the people, and then do it. And she kind of looks at him and she's like, that's what we do. The problem is that people don't agree. And then he says, well, they should be made to. By who? You? No, not me. Someone wise. And that's the thing, that's the thing that I think human beings are so predisposed to do. I mean, this goes back to like Plato and the Philosopher King, right? And you could even tie that back all the way to like George Lucas, behind Star Wars. He gave an interview in the late 90s when Episode 1 was coming out on CBS 60 Minutes. And he said on the record that he favors a form of benevolent dictatorship. He is obviously a big, democracy advocate in name, but he does say democracy is hard. Things don't get done that should get done. Things don't get done that need to get done. Democracy is problematic, and obviously he's not arguing against it. But he kind of is. He did go on to say, I favor a form of benevolent dictatorship, which I think is him being honest. I think most people, at least when they're 2 drinks deep, are like, yeah, you know what? Me too. like, I would also favor the right kind of dictatorship. But then, you kind of come back to your senses and you're like, no, I don't believe that. That's just emotion. That's emotion. That's fear. That's wanting to get your way. That's tantrums after an election when you don't win. The stakes of politics always feel impossibly high. And when you don't have somebody who you can actually reach and actually talk to and try to persuade about how to vote in a Congress, I think people just sort of divert to just wanting a king. I think they would just settle for that because it's simpler.
Right. And you said it because it's hard. And that's something this weekend I was at a meeting of a little political party here in this area. And afterwards I was talking to a couple of people who had expressed interest. And we were talking about why would Congress have not come back in the 30s or the 40s and picked up the thread and continued on? And the answer is because it's hard, right? We get to the 60s, John F. Kennedy's talking about the things we need to do because they're hard to make us proud, right?
Yeah.
Repealing the Permanent Reapportionment Act of 1929 would be hard. But if it had never existed in the first place, every decade we'd have something really hard to do. And Congress doesn't want to do the hard work, which just plays into one of my pet peeves. Every campaign cycle, there's politicians on the stage extolling the virtue of the hard work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Bullshit.
mean, there's
Bullshit. Our species,
great little
our species
anecdote
decided
about
long ago
great little
that hard work
anecdote
is undesirable.
about John Adams. John Adams is said to have favored an alternative to the national seal for the United States that we currently have with the eagle and the serpent and the claw and the shield and all that stuff. That he wanted the seal of the United States to be Hercules' choice, Hercules at the crossroads. And of course, that goes back to the myth of Hercules and his trials. And there's the hard road of all these trials and horrors and pain that Hercules will go through. in his journey. And then there's the easy road, which was, probably like sirens and women and stuff like that. And of course, he takes the hard road. And I think about that all the time. Like John Adams might have been onto something there. Like that might have been the thing we needed more than anything to try to sum up what it was going to mean to be an American. I have regrets.
Well, I think, it's kind of what Roger was saying. They didn't come back to it because it would have been hard. They got rid of it because it was hard. And, generation after generation not being forced to do the hard work, meaning that the people that go to office, they don't have to, it's not as hard of a job anymore, right? It's easier to get the power. You get more reward, less work. Everybody loves that, right? So you've shaped an environment where you're just encouraging the wrong people to be there. And now you're 100 years down the road, doing the hard thing, not doing it for a long period of time has created a huge mess. And now you have a whole bunch of people that just aren't up to the challenge is kind of the biggest problem, which brings me to the thing. Another thing I wanted to ask Stephen about is I think over the last week, we've had two prominent Republicans say they're not running for re-election. One of them in the House and Don Bacon, another one in the Senate.
Tillis, North Carolina.
Tillis. And this seems to be a trend for the last 10 years. Anybody that seems like they are a hardworking legislator doesn't want to be there. Is that what we want our system to be? Like, how do you feel as as a Virginia man? As an American man, like, what does that make you feel like when all these people are just like, kind of feels like the building's on fire?
These are leading questions. The answer is bad. I feel badly about that. Like I don't like that. I don't want that. Nobody does. And yet here we are. Tillis, it was the first campaign I actually ever worked on. I lived in North Carolina and Tom was running. And so right out of college, that was my first opportunity to chip in on a campaign. He was the Speaker of the North Carolina House at the time.
Yep.
Very powerful in North Carolina, and he decided to climb the ladder. He's one of those people, and I'm biased because I got to know him and his family. He's like a real person. I just love him. I remember him taking time out of an event, one of his fundraisers that he was hosting. He took time out of his event and hobnobbing with donors to play ball with my daughter, who was like 2 or 3 at the time, and he was just rolling the ball back and forth with her. And I just remember watching because I was young. I was like 25. I was like, man, he wants to do this. He's hiding. He wants to keep playing ball. He does not want to continue with the fundraiser and doing this.
Yeah.
So I've always had a high opinion of Tillis, and he's played his cards really well. He's done the balance as long as he could. And when he says he doesn't want to run again, he wants to go home and be with his wife, Susan. He means it. He just
and now his replacement is following the same path. Tim Moore just got elected to Congress in this past November. He was the speaker after Tillis. So they're walking the same trail. Yeah, he's no Tom Tillis. I mean, I'm not really a Tillis fan either, but Moore is a POS.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
So a couple things in the chat. Craig Stewart has given a link to Stephen's books, or actually a conversation that Craig had with him, and the full name of the book if you want to go check it out. Also, Craig has written a book on AI government called Emergence that you can go check out as well. And
I recommended that to you before, Walter.
Well, I'm recommending it to everyone else, although I haven't read it. So take that recommendation as somebody who's not your representative. A couple other comments that are flowing in from my end is that so apparently the mayor, the AI mayor who ran for Cheyenne, that actually was last year. He was allowed to run. An AI assistant was allowed to run by the rules. He lost, but now is running for city council. So it's ongoing. The next comment was the big beautiful bill seems to be a great example of how representatives just are not listening to the people. Right? They're just pandering to special interests. It's just a perfect example of how Congress is not working. And the last question came in from our intern Joey and asked, Stephen, could you please make the case to Gen Z adults and alpha school kids about why uncapping the House benefits them?
Oh man, put me on the spot, Joey. Make the case to Gen Z adults and Gen Alpha young people about why uncapping the House benefits them. I think this would probably be an area where I would defer to pie charts. And, really like looking at that population of the United States at the beginning of the 20th century, the amount of representatives you have versus compared to now, and just simply making an analogy about how many people a congressman is now having to tend to. But maybe there's another thing. Oh, this is something I was talking to my daughter about the other day because we were on a drive and we were discussing this issue. She is 14, and the thing that I started like banging my steering wheel about was just like, people act like we can't build things anymore. It is never ending. I swear to God, just like when people mention that they don't want the swamp to get any swampier by sending congressmen, they go, well, we'll have to expand the chamber. We'll have to build a new building. Oh, we can't do that. It'll cost so much money. And then my daughter and I were driving through Kentucky, and we had just talked about this. And we took a wrong turn, and then we came upon a brand new prison. We came upon this brand new federal prison that was put on a big hill in Kentucky, like overlooking the entire farmland. It's this massive facility, towers and everything. And I was like, oh, we took a wrong turn. This big building. You could see like the guys in the towers with the rifles. And as soon as we turned around and got back on the main road, I went, you know what? People say we can't build things. Look what they just built. It's just like, they can build prisons. They can build this. They can build that. But they can't build a little bit more housing to have senators and congressmen do their business. That would be too hard. This is kind of, I think, like the failure of imagination that boomers, Gen X, sorry, I don't mean to throw Roger under the bus here. Gen X probably, right, Roger?
I'm on the line. My sisters are boomer. I'm technically Gen X. I'm
All
right on
right,
the
yeah.
border.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think I have that right on Gen X. I just think there's just been this failure of imagination, this cynicism that has taken hold. And, I think if you just really try to pitch this to people as like refounding the Republic, like we are rebuilding, we are doing what Thomas Jefferson told us we had to do, which is keep adding blocks on top of the blocks that they set. You don't have to go with this sort of Tea Party return to 1776 message. That's not it. It's actually, we're going to build and govern ourselves. We're going to change things. We're going to amend the Constitution for better or for worse. Like, right? We're going to govern.
We have to.
I think that is a compelling and exciting message for younger people. And sorry for like the big diatribe of a story there, but I was trying to remember that prison anecdote. I was just like, man, like, of course we can build a darn building.
Well, I think it goes to how the broken Congress, the small body, has decided to deal with things. No, there is no imagination to build something new, but there's a lot of like, let's solve this problem that was created by us not doing other things, right? Like, we'll build prisons, we'll clean up disasters, and we'll funnel a whole bunch of money into different states when there's big disasters of things, but we're not going to take the time to actually like change the oil in our car. We're going to wait till the engine dies, and then we're going to buy a new engine. Yeah. And I kind of think that's where we're at right now.
So, rhetorical question. I wonder how many criminals commit acts of crime because they don't feel like their voice is heard. Okay, serious question. But this relates to. I want to take this back to kind of the local politics.
Tie it to why 435. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I genuinely think there are probably people in America who have committed acts of violence because they haven't felt represented. They haven't had an ability to have their voice heard. They feel like everything's stacked against them. But Stephen, I wonder, do you feel like the lack of accountability in the federal government, the lack of accountability in our federal House, does that trickle down to local politics? Is there a learned helplessness for people at the local and state level, because they're like, well, most of my tax money goes to the federal government. Why do I care about what happens at the local level? Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Or yeah?
No, I absolutely believe that. Jeff mentioned that my wife and I have both run for office here in the city. She ran for school board, and I ran for city council. Woe is me. But we have both been pretty involved in our HOA. Okay. Now I know people have feelings about HOAs. Some, they're like some pro arguments, even from like the libertarian right. There are good anti arguments as well, and all this stuff. But I mean, on the HOA level, my wife was on the board for a while, and I was very engaged as a volunteer. I do a lot around my neighborhood. It's a townhome community. I would say lower middle class, very transient community in this townhome neighborhood I'm in. I do a lot here. People here in the neighborhood, they don't understand that they're part of a unit. They don't understand that their neighborhood that they live in, that they can fix it. It's shocking. It's shocking. I just go block to block. We set up, community cleanup events. We try to talk to people about the very crappy quality of the pavement in our parking lots, our very ugly parks, and our sewage drain barriers, the wooden barriers that go around the sewers here that are literally rotting and falling down. And people come and they complain about those things at the meetings. We've all watched Parks and Rec on NBC. We know that this is kind of like what constituent meetings are like. But it's a community of like 1,500 people. And of course, HOA meetings are about 20 people. And sometimes we can't even get a quorum. Most meetings, it took us 12 months to get a quorum to oust the do-nothing HOA president who wasn't doing anything for the community. She was really just not managing anything and just enjoying the position. It took a year to get her out. And that was just voter turnout. It was crazy. So, yes, I think I've seen the learned helplessness. I think people assume at all levels of life that their problems are going to be solved for them by some benevolent higher force. And even when they got into this neighborhood, this HOA community, and even when they signed the document saying that they're part of an HOA, they still think it's the city's issue. Like they still believe that because they don't understand the tiers of self-governance. And that is a learned thing.
Yeah, it is a learned thing. It's something we've talked about, on this is the lack of civics education in the American public over the years. What we are trying to do is uncap the house so we have government that works for us so we don't have to think about government all the time. But that's kind of how we got here in the first place. People don't understand our government because they didn't have to think about it for so many decades because it worked well and everybody was prosperous. And we stopped doing civics education. So now people like us are having to form organizations to go out and educate people about how the government works. It's a cycle.
Here's the icing on that cake for me is that basically up until World War I, the primary civics educators in America were our representatives in the House.
So I went and visited Montpelier recently, and we went into the study, James Madison's house. And it's this beautiful room, got all of these great busts of famous men, paintings on the wall. And the guide says, you know that old trope that you were always told growing up, don't talk about politics and religion? That doesn't fly in James Madison's house. He believed that a successful government meant talking about these issues and being able to discuss them civilly and come to some sort of compromise on it. And I think I grew up in that mentality. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about religion. Like you just don't talk about it. And I was kind of told that because my guess is, like they didn't talk about it. And it's just like one cycle to the next cycle. And then all of a sudden you've got 3 generations who don't talk about politics. So how can you really learn anything if you don't talk about it? Right. And now
Well,
you're stuck in this spot.
but did that grow out of like for a bit, there was always a phrase, don't talk politics and religion at the dinner table, right? Because you want to have a nice meal and not upset your digestion. I think it started out with let's don't discuss it at the dinner table, and then it just kind of slipped
Mm,
in outside the boundaries, right? And into the
yeah.
rest of life. And people just wanted to be comfortable, so they wouldn't discuss it anywhere.
Oh, you hit the best word. People love to be comfortable. They'll do anything to be comfortable. And yeah.
So, I want to get Stephen's response. There's a phrase that I use, the issue of cost. You talk about a couple of times in just this meeting. When I talk with people about uncapping the house, the issue of the cost. It's going to cost us more. We're going to have more of these people. It always comes
Mm,
up. My response to that typically is, I'll do some kind of off the cuff remark first, but then I'll say, bargain basement shopping for representation is how we got into this mess in the first place. If we were
yeah.
spending the amount of money we should for adequate representation, maybe we wouldn't be in such a mess. So I'm curious, what's your response to that answer to someone who complains about the cost? Do you think that's effective?
Oh, I think that's great. I mean, yeah, bargain shopping at a certain age, you learn to stop doing it. You learn to stop flying Spirit Airlines because you deserve Delta, even if it's going to cost you more.
Right.
And I struggle with discussions of cost with voters again because I was running for office. I took it very seriously. I've also been around politics my entire life. I enjoy it. I love it. I love talking about it. But I just don't take seriously when people get all uppity about the costs of certain things. They just don't really care. They care about the cost of the things that are not on like their party to-do list, and then
Right.
they love the cost of the things that are on their party to-do list. I just have never met a single person besides like Rand Paul or Justin Amash who are sincere about this. Like they really care about the cost of doing business. So I struggle communicating about this with voters because I have trouble sometimes masking my contempt for
Hmm.
how people gaslight about their concerns over cost. Like, no, you don't care about the cost of lodging a couple of House members and giving them their annual pay. You don't care
Right.
about that. And we had this debate out with Doge. We had this debate out with Doge, and people going like, "Oh, it was only $50 million saved. That's nothing." And people were like hooing and hawing about it as if it was nothing. But it's like that is $50 million. It's a big number. It's a
Yeah.
big number. Yeah.
And I like to tell people, you get what you pay for, right?
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a free lunch. If you want proper representation, you got to pay for it.
Well, and
Yeah.
Sorry,
don't
No,
not
I,
forget
sorry.
that all of our funding bills originate in the House. So if you're worried about the money, like you need good people overseeing the budget bill. Otherwise, we wind up with, another big beautiful piece of BS.
a big, beautiful piece of BS. Yeah, so I think it's gamesmanship. There's always gamesmanship going on when people resist this particular policy proposal that I think we're all passionate about. So people are, pretending to care a lot about the cost issue, but that's not really the root concern. And then the issue of who wins, Team Red or Team Blue, comes up pretty quickly. So that's a big motivating factor. It's the same thing. I mean, nobody cares about the justice question of whether or not Puerto Rico should be a state. They care about whether or not they will vote their way. That's what
Yep.
this entire thing is about, and that will come up with expanding the House as well. And that's what's going on in, frickin' California right now with ICE and the riots and all the enforcement. I mean, this is about counting of citizens, and then it's about counting of citizens, and then how many people are going to go to Washington, D.C. to represent or not represent California. This is not just about feel good, do gooder, like opinions about immigration. This is about
Hmm.
power and
Right.
representation for California. And
Yep.
yes, Republicans vindictively want to take away some of their power and representation, but you could argue it's completely lawful and distorted that they have so much representation in the first place. So that issue aside, I think that it's just hard to pin down what people's true objections are to this issue, which is why I think you just always have to couch it in what is good for them. What is good for them? Have you ever met your congressman? Do you know them? Do you feel like they have any connection to your area? I guarantee you they'll always say no. They'll always say no. And then you kind of begin there with that foundation. And then I like to go from there to, again, the distortion of representation between now and life in 1920. And maybe we could right that wrong.
1911. Go back further.
Yeah, 1911. But it's
Well,
scary. It's scary to people. So
The thing is nobody alive really knows what it feels like to be truly represented. Like we you talk about learned helplessness, right? Like,
Yep.
you've never actually experienced this thing.
It's
I
not just learned; it's lived helplessness.
It's lived helplessness. And we had Philip Wallach on the show last week, and in his book Why Congress, he writes about the 1960s civil rights legislation and how it's almost a triumph for Congress to get this done, and how well they did to make sure that even the lost cause Southern, bloc was heard in Congress. Everybody spoke, right? Everybody got their voice heard, and ultimately it got done. And that was a true testament to how Congress should function. And that was right at the cusp of the population kind of going over the curve, in my opinion, because we were at like 1 in 400,000 people back then. And now we're at 1 in 756,000. And I really think it's a numbers game. Like, it is not that you would be able to know your representative, but you might know somebody that knows your representative. You'd be more likely to know somebody. You'd be more likely to at least have an in with that person if you need it to get to that person. It's not necessarily that you would be in their circle. It's that their circle would connect to your circle, and that's how it should work. I don't know what I'm going there. I'm just ranting. I'm sorry, guys.
I'll let your co-host do it.
Sounded good.
Oh, it's getting to the end of the show. Hey, couple announcements before I forget, because I was supposed to do it at the beginning of the show, and I'm just learning. So we're going to be off next week. I am traveling, and Walter is visiting with a good friend. So we're going to be off on the 7th. On the 14th, we have Kevin Kozar is going to be on the show from AEI. And then on 21st, we're going to have A.D. Tippett on the show from the Conservative Historian podcast. So looking forward to that. I put it on my checklist to make sure I got done tonight. In the last 2 weeks, I've forgotten. So I saw a break and I took it. I'm sorry, guys.
Housekeeping. He's a pro.
Absolutely.
MC.
Hello to everyone on X, but also on Jeff's Facebook page. Jeff, I tried adding you as a friend, speaking of housekeeping, on Facebook, and somehow I'm unable to. We're like too far removed.
Oh, that's strange.
So,
I
know.
I'm not the social guy, I guess.
I mean,
I guess
you
so.
got 180 people watching this right now. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, that's a big number for us. We're making progress.
Yeah, we love that.
Now we just need 180,000 in one state to really get the numbers up, to get whoever that representative is to actually vote for this thing.
And that's a reminder to everyone who is listening. Please, like this, repost it, give us a follow at the various handles. The No Cap Fund, Uncap the House, our personal handles as well. And please go check out the website. We've got the declaration up there. If you heard me recite it at the beginning, it's posted there. That's www.nocapfund.org. And you can also give us your email. We'll keep you updated on the back end and give you opportunities to volunteer your time if that's what you're interested in doing, or your treasure. Time or treasure, both very much welcome. And if you have a recommendation for a future guest on the show, we'll also take those comments. Shoot us a DM or an email. You can reach me directly at the letter W at nocapfund.org. And I don't show that often, so you should feel special.
He just like had a remorse. He's like, I just gave my email to everybody.
Yes, I wish this wasn't live.
Bombard him. Send him emails.
Just
Tell
like-
him his mustache is handsome. Go.
Distributed denial of service. Walter's server.
Before we go, Walter, I didn't get to hear your opinion about Bacon and Tillis leaving, and just this whole idea of that. It seems like everybody that seems pretty competent at the job keeps on wanting to leave Congress. Like, how does that make you feel as a citizen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it. So, you know, when you read the Federalist Papers, they were very keen on this idea that, you know, if you want to try to do something good, you have to stay in the game. And these people who stayed in the game long enough have realized, okay, I've stayed in the game, but I still can't actually change. You know, I can't do anything positive, and so this isn't worth it, right? And so it's not just hard, it's impossible, right? When there's only 435 members in the House, and they're split down party lines, and all these congressional districts are safe, and so all these people are just winning in the primaries or competing in the primaries, and so everybody's pushing further left and further right. You know, it's exhausting for the members in the House. It's exhausting for their staff, and even though they've been in there, they can't accomplish anything that's really, you know, worth putting on their headstone, right? And so they're like, well, I'm going to go do something else. I'm going to go be a good granddad, right? I'm going to go do something meaningful with my life. And really until...
Or they're just going to leverage their experience for money is what they're going to
do. Also that. But, you know, until we uncap the House, the prospect of being a member of Congress is going to continue to be, basically it's going to continue to recruit greedy people because you can't actually accomplish anything worthwhile.
Yeah. I don't know. It makes the challenge of uncapping the House harder, right? Because if all the good people that go there leave, like, what are the chances that we're going to get the people to, like, the bad people to change their mind? Like, we really have to focus on, like, actually changing the voter base. Like educating people to want this and then encouraging other people to go into the game, new good people to enter the game. That becomes the challenge. And that's what when we had Thomas Howes on the show a few weeks ago with Reagan Caucus, that was my challenge to him is like, if you're going to be a caucus, you got to get candidates, you got to get them running for something, and you got to get them running now. Like, don't wait.
So we need an AI bot, and until then, Joey, this is your new job. Anytime somebody says something negative about the media, you have to go and comment that the media is broken because the Congress was capped in 1929. And if you don't understand why, come follow us to learn more. And we have to figure out how to make that a meme. I haven't figured out how to make that a meme yet, but.
I know. Use the Achilles arrow and ankle meme.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Can you make
it? Search Steve? Achilles meme, and just make House Captain 1911 the ankle every time.
Okay, got it. All right,
it'll be a huge hit.
Okay, sweet. I've been searching. So, Stephen, thank you. May the force be with you.
Before we end,
all of us. Yeah.
I just have to express my displeasure with Stephen's dislike of pie charts. The disrespect for pie charts landed wrong with me. Just so you know, I'm an accountant. I love pie charts.
I'm so sorry. I'm a lowly communications professional. The head of communications for Senator Lindsey Graham posted something funny on Twitter today. It was a picture of Lindsey Graham with a really great chart about the budget deficit. And then there was another chart of Lindsey Graham with a hand-drawn sign that just said 50 billion bad. And she said, this is policy versus communications.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like 50 billion bad. That's good. And Jeff's like, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephen.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. We're going to continue to cut up our live streams and produce them into podcast episodes. Over time, we'll get better. So be patient with us. For now, if you want to learn more, go to www.y435.org. You can learn all about representation, the Permanent Apportionment Act of 1929, and you can sign the Declaration for Representation. And if you feel really moved by representation as an issue, you can sign up to volunteer or make a donation. Until next time, peace and love.